Welcome to Game Theorem, where we have serious discussions about absurd entertainment.
Not knowing where you'll end up is despair. Despair is what even you cannot predict. Only despair's unpredictability will save you from a boring future. Junko Enoshima, the ultimate fashionista.
At least she was at that time.
So yeah, we're talking about Danganronpa again.
Yep. So spoilers for Danganronpa.
Yeah, and trigger warnings for everything.
Yep.
This is a follow-up to our last episode where we did Danganronpa Best in the World. And in that episode, we talked about the origins of all the characters and the founding of Hope's Peak Academy. We talked about the early lives of most characters. And also in that episode, we broke down all the specific trigger warnings. You know, there was so many of them. Basically, any type of dark content with killing or children or many horrible things. Trigger warning for that. Go see the previous episode. This is a follow-up to that.
Yep.
And just to, like I said, a bit of a recap. We saw the birth of all the characters, right?
Yeah.
And we saw many of them going through school. Mm-hmm. We also saw the founding of Hope's Peak Academy, where they're cultivating ultimate talent, the best of the best.
Yep.
And that's where we were introduced to the character Junko. Mm-hmm. And she's kind of been going off the deep end. She is...
That's the nice way of putting it.
Well, she hasn't done anything bad yet. Uh-huh. I mean, okay, she harasses her sister to no end. I guess that's bad. But she hasn't killed anyone.
Not yet.
I mean, no, don't spoil, because we're going to get into it this episode, right? Mm-hmm. But she has recently gotten fame, wealth, and power. So that's not good. Yep.
She became a fashion icon, right?
Yes, because of her analytical skills. Mm-hmm. And it's also worth pointing out that there are a lot of characters, and most of them are Japanese. So if you get confused, we're going to put a link in the description. It's the same infographic as last time that shows all the characters in case you get mixed up. Mm-hmm. Any other disclaimers you'd like to give, Kira?
No, we're good.
All right. Would you like to start, or should I? I'll start.
Yeah, all right.
All right. So in the year 3 BD April, so that's 3 years before Despair, right? Mm-hmm. So 3 BD in April, Monica, Nagisa, Masaru, Kodako, and Jotaro began first grade at Hope's Peak Elementary. They were all placed in the so-called Troublemakers class.
All right, Nagisa's parents gamified his life, treating him like an experimental subject whose only goal was to continuously study harder and harder. He was forced to barely sleep, and he was only allowed to eat via IV drip. His studies earned him the title of Little Ultimate Social Studies, but he couldn't meet his parents' expectations for the experiment, and his parents contemplated getting rid of him.
Oh, I forgot this was the part where we get into all the child abuse.
Yep.
Because Hope's Peak Elementary, you're not guaranteed a spot in Hope's Peak Academy, so they're pushing them really hard, hoping it pays off, and doing inhumane things to their children.
Yep.
Masaru was forced to regularly fetch alcohol for his alcoholic father. Since Masaru wasn't old enough to purchase it, Masaru had to steal it. When the police became involved, his father beat him for making him look like a bad guy. Masaru endured the beating and tried to be a good guy, a hero to his father. His training earned him the title of Little Ultimate Physical Education.
Yep.
He was a bad guy, his father.
Obviously, yeah. Kodako wanted to be an actor like her mother. However, Kodako's mother was pressured into prostitution to advance her acting career, and Kodako became entangled in her mother's career. Producers regularly raped them, and her father began an affair without care. Kodako still managed to earn the title of Little Ultimate Drama.
They say patriarchy isn't real. Okay. Jotaro's mother hated him because he was beautiful and reminded her of her lost potential. Jotaro's parents verbally abused him and made him wear a mask, telling him he was ugly. And so he learned to respond favorably to hate. He spent his free time in arts and crafts, earning the title of Lil Ultimate Art.
Monica used her intellect to become adept at faking happiness and socializing. Her extreme kindness earned her the title of Lil Ultimate Homeroom, but she often manipulated her classmates with that kindness. Nagisa, Masaru, Kodako, and Jotaro became best friends with Monica, and they endured their suffering together.
It almost makes you think there's something very wrong with the entire concept of this school, that the highest ranking students in the school that have the Lil Ultimate titles are the ones that are the most abused.
Yep. Although they were in the troublemakers class, so.
But they made the title of Lil Ultimate. I mean, that means something. There aren't that many of those elementary titles to go around.
I guess, fair enough.
Meanwhile, Mukuro and Junko had been reunited, but Junko was suspicious of Mukuro's story about being a soldier. So Junko said that Mukuro should prove that she really was a soldier by murdering like one. Mukuro didn't want to do that, but Junko insisted. Mukuro dutifully obeyed her sister's wishes and committed a mass shooting at Giboro Junior High School and murdered nearly everyone there.
Too soon.
I get Mukuro's kind of brainwashed by Junko, but they should both be locked up for that.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay, let's just move on. I don't know what to say to that.
It will always be too soon in America.
That's something you can say, I guess.
Junko was surprised that Mukuro actually did it. Junko was so bored with life due to her analytical prowess predicting every outcome and numbing her to feeling much of anything, but this was a surprise that made her feel the despair she craved. Junko told Mukuro about her dream to paint the world with this despair.
Can I say something? I have conflicted feelings about Junko. Can I go on about that for a minute?
Sure.
On one hand, I feel Junko is a terrible character because she's behind the killings of so many people. These are her first victims through Mukuro. Mm-hmm. But that's the thing. She doesn't kill herself. She gets other people to kill for her.
Yeah. I mean, we'll see. But yeah.
Right. I mean, that's her thing, though. And this is her doing that with Mukuro. Mm-hmm. So part of me wants to think that, this is kind of the trope of the extremely beautiful, voluptuous character, although she's kind of underage right now, but she will be of age later in the story. Yeah. Of her being the evil villain, like the beautiful temptress kind of thing, right? Mm-hmm. But the problem is that trope usually has that woman being dumb, right? Yeah. Usually you're beautiful and dumb, or you're old and wicked and clever. Right? Yeah. That's how the tropes usually go. I feel Junko, in a way, defies that by being extremely intelligent and also attractive.
She's a very well-written villain. I'll say that.
I don't know about that. I think she was well-written by accident. Because we've discussed before how the creators of Danganronpa are definitely not feminists.
Oh, well, yeah, fair enough.
But I think the very nature of Danganronpa as a very cerebral plot kind of forced Junko into being a cerebral character.
Yeah, because they couldn't have just any villain, because they had to put a villain in, they had to put kind of an anime sort of villain inside a real modern society, you know? And so by the nature of having to deal with the reality of modern society, they had to write her in such a way that she was a villain, but she could keep going in modern society. It's really weird.
I think part of me just feels like we need more powerful women in media, even in the villain roles. Yeah. And so, yeah, I loathe her for the crime she commits, but even I have to go that was clever. Yeah. We haven't gotten there yet because this is not clever. This is just random violence and murder. Yeah. But it will build up, so why don't we just go ahead and keep talking about the story?
All right. Only 2 students survived the mass shooting, Takumi Hijirihara and Shiji Shujigawa were severely traumatized and both individually decided they would make it their purpose to kill mass murderers and serial killers. Shuji became known as the Killer Killer, but when he found out that Takumi was doing the same thing, Shuji immediately quit. Takumi took the title of Killer Killer, and Shuji made it his new purpose to undo the damage and convince Takumi to stop killing.
Do you get all that?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I get it.
They both wanted revenge, and then one of them's like, wait a minute, revenge isn't the answer.
Yeah.
So meanwhile, let's go to talk about some of the other characters that are going through high school, right? Akane eventually became a waitress and stole food to feed her siblings, and a customer who assaulted her said she should try gymnastics. So she switched careers and made enough money in gymnastics to buy a new home for her and her siblings.
Oh, really? Ibuki left her band, Black Cherry, because they wanted to make more pop songs, while she wanted to keep playing heavy metal music.
Aoi was simultaneously in 6 sports teams in her high school, but swimming was her favorite. She was such a great pro swimmer that her goal was to one day swim in the Olympics. Her brother, Yuta, looked up to her and wanted to be a professional swimmer as well.
Oh, I forgot about Yuta. Alright, Leon caught Kenan tailing him one day and made a deal with her. He said that if she could throw a baseball at 160 kilometers per hour like he could, he would consider dating her. The world record for women was 140 kilometers per hour, so Kenan spent every day training and practicing to meet that goal, regardless of weather.
He literally said, like, you're my cousin, I'm not going to date you unless you can beat the world record for women's baseball.
Wow.
That is problematic on so many levels.
Yep.
We'll talk about incest later. Canon right here, her story is probably the most innocent, where she just loves him. Mm-hmm. And he's a jerk. She deserves better, honestly.
Yep.
Sakura visited Kenshiro to find that he was emaciated and no longer capable of training her due to his terminal illness. He bestowed his title of strongest human alive to her, but she vowed to earn the title properly when his health returned. He promised to do so. So that's why she earned the title, but she never felt like she earned it.
Yeah.
Which, I can understand being upset about that.
Yeah. All right, 2 years before Despair, March. What?
Oh, sorry. Continue. Sorry.
Class 74 of Hope's Peak graduated. Some notable graduates included Kyosuke Munakata, the Ultimate Student Council President, Chisa Yukizome, the Ultimate Housekeeper, and Juzo Sakakura, the Ultimate Boxer.
Kyosuke, Chisa, and Juzo had noticed some of the corruption within Hope's Peak, and they formed an alliance to investigate the steering committee from within. They all acquired jobs working for Hope's Peak, which was glad to welcome the Ultimates back. A lot of the staff ended up being prior alumni.
I guess that makes sure that they have the best of the best as their staff.
Yeah, but that's really bad if your college is about like, hey, here, go get jobs in the real world, and you're also providing those jobs.
I guess. The steering committee began construction of an overseas branch so that Ultimates could be cultivated beyond Japan. And Kyosuke was selected to oversee the development. Juzo, meanwhile, became head of security for Hope's Peak Academy. Chisa became an assistant homeroom teacher to Koichi Kizukuro, a notorious scout for Hope's Peak, who was too drunk to teach himself. Managing the Ultimates was a difficult task, so Chisa doubled up on her health insurance. You had to mention that.
I felt it was important. She makes a specific note of mentioning that.
Yeah, the first day of school.
So, 2BD, April. Hope's Peak concluded their scouting for Class 77. Jin, the headmaster, decided to create a lottery so one lucky student could enroll in Hope's Peak Academy as an endeavor to investigate whether luck was a talent. Nagito, who luckily still hadn't died from his lymphoma, won the lottery but didn't feel he deserved to attend. Jim insisted, and Nagito enrolled as the ultimate lucky student. Because of course he did. His entire life has been about luck.
Yeah, I know. 2BD, April.
It's still 2BD April.
Oh, yeah, sorry. Fuyuhiko enrolled in Hope's Peak as the ultimate Yakuza, but his sister, Natsumi, wanted to enroll as the ultimate little sister, but Hope's Peak didn't accept that as a talent. Natsumi convinced her family to pay for her to transfer her into the reserve course for her high school education so she could still be near her brother. Pekko enrolled in Hope's Peak as well as the ultimate swordswoman, but she and Fuyuhiko kept their relationship secret.
Gundam enrolled in Hope's Peak as the ultimate breeder. He brought with him his pet hamsters, the 4 dark devas of destruction, named Sandi, Junpei, Magazi, and Chambi.
Okay. Teruteru left his home to enroll in Hope's Peak as the ultimate cook. He promised his sick mother that he would come back with a great job and enough money to take care of her and the diner.
Shinobu Tagami was one of Byakuya's elder siblings. She may have lost their sibling rivalry to inherit the Tagami Corporation, but she managed to enroll in Hope's Peak as the ultimate secretary.
Wait, what?
Yep.
Who was this?
Tagami's older sister.
But she wasn't in the class with the rest of them.
No, she was in a different class.
There was another class of ultimates?
There are 3 years, but multiple classes for each of them.
Oh, okay. All right, I did not know this.
Here,
all right.
Read the next line.
Some notable students of Class 77A included Soshu Murasami, the next Ultimate Student Council president.
So that's one that they have like every year as Ultimate Student Council president.
Yeah, because they feel like they probably need one for...
each year.
Yeah.
Right.
The Madare brothers as the ultimate identical siblings.
So
How is that a talent?
I guess they were really good at pretending to be the same person, so they treated them as one person.
Oh, I see. Yasuke Matsuda, the ultimate neurologist.
Junko's childhood friend.
Yeah. Yuto Kamishiro, the ultimate secret agent.
He looked like a little kid.
Santa Shikibi, the ultimate botanist.
Plants.
And Shinobu Togami, the ultimate secretary.
See? Class 77B consisted of Chiaki Nanami, the ultimate gamer. She's honestly the best.
Yes.
Akane Owari, the ultimate gymnast. Fuyuhiko Kuzuryo, the ultimate Yakuza. Gundam Tanaka, the ultimate breeder. Hiyoko Saionji, the ultimate traditional dancer. Ibuki Miyota, the ultimate musician. Kazuichi Soda, the ultimate mechanic. Mihiru Koizumi, the ultimate photographer. Mikon Sumiki, the ultimate nurse. Nagito Kameda, the ultimate lucky student. Nekamaru Nidai, the ultimate team manager. Peko Pekoyama, the ultimate swordswoman. Ryoto Mitarai, the ultimate animator. Sonia Nevermind, the ultimate princess. How is that a title?
You know what? Maybe she's really good at rolling.
I don't know. Maybe she's like an ambassador to countries as a princess or something. Or maybe they're just being honest that, yeah, wealth gets you something. Mm-hmm. And Teruteru Hanamura, the ultimate cook.
You know, that would explain Tagami, the ultimate, like...
Well,
although
we haven't gotten to his ultimate talent yet, so we can talk about that when it comes.
All right, fine.
Because this is Class 77.
Mm-hmm. All right, some notable students of Class 77 in the reserve course included Hajime Hinata, Natsumi Kuzuru, and Sato, who were all in the same subclass.
There was a person who had no identity in their entire life, and they had become adept at stealing other people's identities. Their life was somber, and the only constant in their life was fast food. However, they were so skilled at impersonating others that their weight didn't matter, and they considered himself the ultimate imposter. Their favorite impersonation was being Byakuya Tagami. Mm-hmm. So the idea is he's so good that he can be overweight from eating so much fast food that no one even notices.
Yep.
Which is, I don't know, it's amusing, it's kind of funny, but I don't feel like it's fat shaming. I feel like it's the opposite of that, don't you?
Yeah, it's saying that it doesn't matter.
Kind of, yeah, but I don't know, it's a little sad because I can relate to the idea of fast food being comforting in lieu of people.
Yeah.
I don't know, maybe I empathize with him, I don't know.
Ryota became obsessed with finishing his masterpiece animation and never showed up to class. The ultimate imposter, as Byakuya, approached him and proposed a deal. He offered to go to Hope's Peak Academy in his place. The deal would give the imposter a long-lasting identity, and it would allow Ryota more time every day to work on his animation. Ryota accepted, and the ultimate imposter enrolled as Ryota, the ultimate animator.
Yeah, so Ryo's going to be animating all day, and the imposter's taking his place.
Yep.
So when we say Ryota later on, we might be talking about the imposter.
Yeah.
Koichi was briefly the homeroom teacher of Class 77B until Chisa took the position.
Terror befriended his upperclassman, Psycho, and he occasionally asked her to develop food laced with supplements or additives that he used sometimes with dubious intentions.
Yeah, Psycho's a pretty common Japanese name, despite what the English word that we think of.
Mm-hmm.
Hajime was taking his classes in the reserve course when he was scouted by the steering committee to partake in an experiment called the Izuru Kamakura Project, named after the founder of Hope's Peak Academy. They sent Kazuo to talk to Hajime to persuade him to partake. Remember, Kazuo's the advisor.
Yep. Chisa made Chiaki the class representative of Class 77B, and Chiaki won the support of her classmates. She ensured they would bond together, but she also befriended Hajime in the reserve course.
They became friends.
Mm-hmm.
Mahiro was still friends with Sato, so Mahiro often visited the reserve course to see Sato. However, when she did so, she found Natsumi was resentful that she wasn't an ultimate. Natsumi threatened Mahiro and Sato when she told them of her Yakuza family. Natsumi projected an overly hostile attitude to avoid realizing her shortcomings, but Sato still possessed the scars that Natsumi had caused and took her violent threats seriously.
Sato wanted to prevent any harm coming to Mahiro, so she confronted Natsumi and hit her with the baseball bat on the head, killing her. When Fuyuhiko found out, he confronted her and killed her in revenge for his sister. The steering committee covered up the murders and claimed that unknown assailants had killed Natsumi and that Sato had died from shock.
So now there's cover-ups for murders at Hope's Peak Academy.
Well, that's what you get when you allow an ultimate Yakuza who doesn't care about killing people into your high school.
I mean, yeah, that was problematic, but they didn't have to cover it up.
Yeah, that's true.
They have blood on their hands now.
Mm-hmm.
After participating in a promiscuous photo shoot, Sayaka appeared on the cover of Fantana magazine, which immediately sold out. She's the idol singer.
Yep. 2 years before Despair, September, Saiko, Ruruka, and Sanosuke of Class 76 prepared to take their final talent exam, but Ruruka demanded that Saiko provide a drug so that Ruruka could cheat in the exam. At the same time, Nagito asked Saiko for a laxative to try to get out of his exam. Nagito accidentally took the reanimated drug that Saiko made that Ruruka had wanted, so Ruruka took the reactivator drug that Nagito was supposed to take.
Nagito's luck always has to get in the way. He got them mixed up.
Yep.
When Nagito was still unable to avoid taking his exam, he luckily found some explosives that he placed around Hope's Peak, and he left a warning note that went unheeded. He bumped into Saiko and unfortunately swapped his bag of explosives with her bag of pharmaceuticals.
Ruruka laced the pastry she concocted with the reactivator, hoping it would make her ace her final exam, but the judges instead became incredibly constipated. Oh wait, no, they got the runs. It was the opposite, because when Nagito went to her, she told her he was having a constipation problem.
Oh, right, laxatives do
would...
the opposite of that.
Yeah.
My bad.
Yep. When the judges realized they had been dosed, Ruruka claimed that Saiko had sabotaged her. The judges then discovered that explosives were in Saiko's bag. Ruruka then verbally abused Saiko during the whole ordeal.
Nagito unfortunately spilled the reanimator, and a Pomeranian dog drank it. The drug made the dog grow several times in size and strength, and it ventured into the stadium where the final exams were being held, scaring everyone in there. Saiko fell over onto the bag of explosives, triggering the detonator and blowing up the stadium.
Yep.
Thanks, Nagito. Thank you.
The press
We should have like a saying for that every time Kameda does that.
The press demanded answers, and so the steering committee was unable to cover up the accident. Saiko, Ruruka, and Sanosuke survived the explosion, but they were all expelled from Hope's Peak Academy for the incident. Nagito was put on suspension for his suspected involvement, and the Class 77 exams were suspended as well. Fortunately for Nagito, Chisa took responsibility for her student Nagito, and so Jin transferred her to the reserve course as punishment.
So Nagito was like, I don't want to take the tests. And after all this chain of events, the exams were canceled and he didn't have to take the tests. How lucky for you, Nagito. How lucky.
Well, that's what he wanted.
Takumi, now a young man, left Japan and traveled to Spain, where he dropped the title Killer Killer in favor of a new one, Sparkling Justice. He killed many serial killers and became well known throughout Spain and the rest of the world as Sparkling Justice. His signature mask he wore became staple merchandise for serial killer fanatics. In Hope's Peak, Sonia kept up with the story and bought a mask herself.
Yeah, I don't get people like that. I don't get that entire.
I don't get it. I mean, I kind of get it,
with
but
quotes.
Yeah, I don't agree with it. I think I think like the true crime genre is pretty unethical. I do want to do a podcast about that someday.
Okay,
but
yeah.
There are a lot of people that are into it. So honestly, Sonia being the supposedly like innocent little girl being into that, I could totally believe that.
Yeah, I mean, that's fair. It's just really disturbing to me. But, not as disturbing as some of the other things that happen.
Oh, yeah, that's barely even marks the chart.
Yep. Chisa used her time in the reserve course to continue her investigation into Hope's Peak, and she learned a bit about the Izuru Kamakura project, which was underway. The steering committee began artificially sampling and recording data on every talent they cataloged, and officially, they reported that Hajime had been expelled.
Hajime's mind was wiped, and the steering committee dumped every talent into his mind via high-tech data transfers and mental reprogramming. As a result of the experiment, the young man became incredibly talented in many regards, but also incredibly bored of life, and as a side effect, his hair had grown incredibly long. The steering committee renamed him as the new Izuru Kamakura, and they assigned him the title as the Ultimate Hope. Their project had succeeded. He was such a nice person before, too, although he was very troubled. Mm-hmm. And now he's just empty.
Yeah, he's gone.
Or full? Depends on what way you look at it.
Yep. During his suspension...
By the way, if he's the ultimate everything, that means he'd be like the ultimate empath. So, like, he could be nice, he just doesn't want to.
He's just bored.
Yeah.
He probably thinks being nice is boring.
He probably thinks everything is boring.
Yep. During his suspension, Nagito was traveling in an airplane when it unfortunately crashed on a remote tropical island. Jin considered letting Nagito return to Hope's Peak Academy, but was unable to contact him.
You should say ultimate bleep.
Yeah.
Say it.
Nagito's the ultimate asshole.
No.
The ultimate bullshit.
Yes.
Yeah.
There we go.
There we go.
Okay, 1 year before despair, March. Upon the conclusion of the school year, Jin transferred Chisa back to teaching class 77B. She reunited with her class and was surprised to see that Hiyoko had had a huge growth spurt. She's no longer the short kid.
Mm-hmm. Ryota worked so hard on his masterpiece animation that he became ill, so the imposter Ryota kidnapped Mikan, had her treat him, and then divulged their secret to her. She promised not to tell anyone.
So now someone knows there's 2 Ryotas. Hope's Peak concluded their scouting for Class 78. Junko, who was now a powerful, voluptuous celebrity and secretly an orchestrator of mayhem, used her wealth and influence to convince the steering committee to not only personally recommend her as the ultimate fashionista, but they even gave her access to the most ostentatious dorm room on the campus. The dorm room was hidden beneath the statue of the founder of Hope's Peak. Junko enrolled in Hope's Peak Academy, having successfully faked an ultimate talent in lieu of her real one. Her sister Makuro was also scouted as the ultimate soldier, but the steering committee didn't know that she was Junko's sister because they had different last names.
Yeah, and also Junko probably changed her. Like, Junko looked so different from Makuro.
With all of her makeup and her hair and everything.
Yeah.
If you had them side by side, you could tell, but they probably didn't.
Yeah. Makoto had the unluckiest day of his life, and during this day, he encountered Jutaru Akafuku, an extremely lucky robber who wanted his crimes to be known for his skill, not his luck. Makoto exposed his crime by accident, and so Jutaru escaped by stealing a postman's motorcycle. However, the motorcycle crashed after running over a can of juice Makoto dropped, and the motorcycle collided with the street lamp and exploded.
Jin hosted another lottery to find another Ultimate Lucky student to join Hope's Peak Academy, just like last year. You know, like how they have the Ultimate Student Council, they want to make Lucky Student an annual thing as well. Mm-hmm. However, the steering committee didn't want to make it an annual tradition and felt luck went against the idea of cultivating talent. Jin responded by pointing out Nagito's amazing luck. And so the steering committee relented and let the lottery continue. All he had to do was just point to Nagito.
And then they're like, okay, you know what? There's no possible way that much bullshit happens to one person unless there's something...
Like luck is quantifiable.
Yeah, exactly.
I kind of think it's funny, to be honest.
Yep. Jin was going to announce the name of the girl who won the lottery, but Jin learned that the letter addressed to her had burned in a motorcycle accident. Jin felt such an unlucky disaster should disqualify her as a candidate, as they wanted good luck. Instead, Jin announced the name of the runner-up as this year's Ultimate Lucky Student, Makoto Naegi.
Wow, that's the same motorcycle accident.
Yep.
So... like, Nagito, his luck is extreme, and it's on both sides, good and bad, right? Mm-hmm. Makoto, his luck is a lot more benign. Mm-hmm. And it usually seems good, but it's a little hard to tell. It's like it's good in the long run.
Yep.
I mean, not good for the girl, though, unfortunately.
Yeah.
Mondo was accepted as the ultimate biker gang leader, and he made his subordinate, Takemichi Yukimaru, the temporary leader of the Crazy Diamonds, while he went to Hope's Peak. Takemichi was liked for liking other men and still being manly.
Oh, wow, really?
I guess that's, it's a good representation.
I'm guessing that most of the biker gang probably had this awful view of people like that, and then he came out to them and they're like, but you're awesome.
It's like, but you're so manly and you're gay? And he's like, yeah, you want to have a problem with that? No, sir. Nope.
Yeah. Yasuhiro was accepted as the ultimate clairvoyant, so he enrolled in Hope's Peak Academy, finally coming out of hiding, believing Hope's Peak could protect him from the Yakuza.
He's literally the only person who was held back and accepted.
Yep.
One subclass of Class 78 consisted of Makoto Naegi, the next ultimate lucky student, Aoi Asahina, the ultimate swimming pro, Byakuya Tagami, the ultimate affluent progeny. Some of the ultimate titles, their names get translated differently because the game was originally made in Japanese. Mm-hmm. I prefer the translation that he's the ultimate heir. I feel that's more descriptive.
Yeah, but I feel like Tagami's position is different than Sonya's because, yes, he was born into it, but he was also an incredible business person in his own right.
It's basically the ultimate corporate progeny.
I guess.
What it is. Celestia Ludenberg, the ultimate gambler, Chihiro Fujisaki, the ultimate programmer, Hifumi Yamada, the ultimate fanfic creator, Junko Enoshima, the ultimate fashionista, Kiyotaka Ishimaru, the ultimate moral compass, he's like a prefect, Kyoko Kirigiri, the ultimate detective, Leon Kuwata, the ultimate baseball star, Mondo Awada, the ultimate biker gang leader, Makuro Ikusaba, the ultimate soldier. I guess they never found out about the school shooting she did. She wouldn't have been accepted, probably.
Yeah.
I guess no one knows.
Yeah, I'm sure they covered, I'm sure Makuro covered her tracks. Either that or Junko covered it up for her.
Sakura Ogami, the ultimate martial artist. Sayaka Mizono, the ultimate pop sensation. Toko Fukawa, the ultimate writing prodigy, and Yasuhiro Hagakure, the ultimate clairvoyant. I guess 30%'s better than what most get.
Prior to enrolling, Junko occasionally left live explosives that kill people, but she was always able to avoid suspicion. She doodled in a personal journal and fantasized about despair often. Upon arriving at Hope's Peak Academy, she conceptualized a character called Monokuma, and she repurposed part of the Hope's Peak Academy logo as a sinister eye for the character.
Yeah, like the logo, they have like a paintbrush doing like a little swivel of paint. That swivel becomes Monokuma's eye. And yeah, she's randomly killing people now. And no one can trace it back to her just because she's that good and analytical at hiding her tracks. She was the one who probably covered up Makuro's shooting.
Yep.
Juzo used his position to acquire a key card to access Hope's Peak's secret facilities. He gave it to Chisa, who snuck into the facilities and discovered their experiments.
On her first day of class, Junko kidnapped a trustee of the steering committee and tortured him to death with ordinary items in her dorm room until he revealed details of Hope's Peak's secret experiments. She learned about Izuru and how he was in their secret facilities behind a retinal scanner. She killed the trustee by scooping out his eyeball, and Makuro began a stealth assault upon the security as Junko followed behind.
And see, I think part of it's like, how can she get away with all this? Well, one, she's really smart. She's just really good at it. But two, the steering committee of Hope's Peak is so concerned with covering everything up and all their corruption that they can't possibly let any of this out. Right?
Yeah, that's true. So anything she does at Hope's Peak is probably covered up.
Exactly.
Just by the fact of it being at Hope's Peak, because they don't want anything to even put a mild stain on their reputation.
And anyone who finds out that is Junko, she kills.
Yep.
And she has a soldier to do her bidding, the best soldier in the world, right?
Yep.
Junko used the eyeball to access Izuru's room and violently greeted him. Izuru was locked in a room with so much talent that the world bored him. He subdued both Junko and Makuro with extreme ease. Junko became infatuated with Izuru, and she made him a pitch. She gave a speech on why despair was the only option for unpredictability, and how hope just preserved the status quo. She offered to make the world less boring with his help, and he accepted her proposal while stomping her face on his way out. Makuro took Junko to the medical ward, and the steering committee covered up the whole incident, unaware of the culprits.
Yep.
So basically, Junko represents ultimate chaos, and Izuru represents ultimate neutrality. Mm-hmm. We don't have an ultimate hope yet, because he was supposed to be the ultimate hope, but he's so bored, he's like, well, let's just see how it plays out.
Yep.
And in doing so, kind of siding with Junko. I guess that's a statement for neutrality, isn't it?
Yep. Ryota went to Hope's Peak Medical Ward to follow up on his recent illness when he encountered Junko. Junko made Ryota an acquaintance of hers, and when she challenged his skill in animation, he took her and Makuro to his home to show them the rough draft of his masterpiece. The anime's beauty made Junko and Makuro weep, and Ryota explained that he had figured out how to do subtle but positive emotional manipulation via color coding and subliminal messaging in the background of his masterpiece.
I think that's quite brilliant, really, because at the end of the day, art is supposed to make you feel things, right?
Yeah.
So the best animator in the world may have found ways that were so powerful, it's almost like subliminal messaging.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Even made Junko cry, and that must be hard. Right?
Yeah.
Junko and Makuro spent their days at Hope's Peak pretending to be good students. However, unbeknownst to the rest of Class 78, Junko began to calculate a grand scheme to achieve her dream of despair, utilizing the talent of Hope's Peak. She started by discovering that her dorm room was adjacent to some abandoned underground chambers beneath the campus of Hope's Peak. She began devising a despair-inducing killing game, and she had Makuro make heavy modifications to the underground chambers, turning them into death traps.
And courtrooms.
So, yeah, like, I said she was off the deep end before. She found an even deeper end to go off of.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
She is a maniacal mass murderer in the making yet.
Mm-hmm. Junko gave Ryota her dorm room and an elaborate computer setup to expedite his masterpiece, while she and Makuro lived elsewhere in her chambers. Ryota's imposter grew concerned when Ryota went missing from his previous home, but the imposter couldn't tell anyone without blowing his cover.
Nagisa, Masaru, Kodako, and Jotaro, now in 3rd grade, grew weary from the continued abuse they suffered from their parents. But Monika resisted depression by causing suffering in others. Yay. She suggested suicide to her friends, and they all met on the roof of Hope's Peak Academy to jump and kill themselves to free them from their abuse. Monika had no intention of jumping. She considered the ruse a prank.
Before they jumped, Junko intervened and convinced them to stop. Junko found that she had a soft spot for the children, but even though she promised to take care of them, she knew she could manipulate them into weapons of despair. She told them that adults were demons that couldn't be trusted, and that she knew this firsthand. The 5 children all revered her as Big Sis Junko, and Junko made arrangements for them to stay in a new home, although Monika insisted that she go back to her home in Towa City to stay as the head of the robotics branch of the Towa group.
So Junko has a little protege now, the little sadistic Monika. Like, their origins made me feel empathy. So, like, in the last episode, you might have heard me talking about them like, aw, I could see how they're so they turned into bad people, right? And this episode is just like, and then probably next episode it's going to be like, I hate you.
Yeah.
Anyway, Nagito finally made his way back to civilization, but he unfortunately washed up in the United States. While there, he luckily came upon a pistol, and he decided to trust his luck and keep it. He luckily managed to smuggle it with him back into Japan without any issue. Instead of returning to Class 77B, however, he grew suspicious of Junko's behavior and kept his return a secret. He watched Junko from the shadows and hoped that she would be the despair that hope would vanquish. Like, okay, Nagito, you might actually be able to use your luck for some good and prevent everything from happening, right? Right? Maybe?
Yeah.
Except now he's waiting. He's like, sir, surely hope will come to stop it. You could be that hope. Just do it. Just do it.
Yeah. And, okay, this is weird. An alien plant-like species managed to make its way onto Earth in a secluded mansion in Japan. Santa, the ultimate botanist, discovered them and named them the Rhinogrondentia. He created the Earth Defense Force, a supposed organization where the only other member was a young woman named Kyoko. However, Kyoko had started an investigation of her own and found out about the alien plants.
Kyoko being the ultimate detective. So Santa, Kyoko, and Kyuka worked together to stop the invasive plants, and they destroyed the mansion. Kyoko revealed, however, that she was the ultimate galactic invader sent from beyond to ensure the plants thrived. She had been masquerading as a human, but activated as a robotic sleeper agent. Santa managed to talk her down and remember her humanity, and they hugged. Everyone involved thought it was best not to tell anyone what happened for Kyoko's safety.
Yep.
Aliens. Just one-off alien event. Okay. Aliens are real.
Yep. Gundam, meanwhile, bred more hamsters and called them his 12 Zodiac Generals.
Junko spied on the head of security, Juzo, and easily evaded his notice. She gathered evidence that he had a romantic crush on Kyosuke for the purposes of blackmail. Juzo knew Kyosuke would never return his feelings, as Kyosuke didn't seem to like men.
Well, he seemed to have a crush on Chisa.
Maybe. But this was a huge reveal in the show, by the way, because they framed it like he was liking women. And it's like, oh my goodness, he liked a man the whole time. You had such a pattern of heteronormativity in your storytelling. I didn't actually expect you to go against that. Oh.
Yeah, they frame it the whole time as if he has a crush on Chisa, but he doesn't want to get in between Chisa and Monosuke. But it turns out Monosuke was the one he had a crush on.
And Junko is the only one who knows.
Yep.
So I'm glad to get some LGBT representation, although, again, it's always the bare minimum. They can't even have a happy relationship.
Yep. Junko sewed a plushie based on her Monokuma character. She then decided to target the entire student council and had Makuro kidnap some of their relatives.
As you do. One night, Junko arranged for the student council of Hope's Peak to stay after school. The Madurai brothers were the ultimate identical siblings because of their ability to synchronize so well, to the point where they all pretended to be a single person named Ishiki Madurai. As Ishiki, they pretended to be the ultimate bodyguard and guarded the student council, led by Soshin, the ultimate student council president. But on this night, Ishiki did not stay late when the rest of the council did.
Really?
So he survived what happens next.
Oh, wow, I didn't know that he wasn't there.
Right.
Junko broke Izuru out of his cell and convinced him to tag along with her for the killing game she devised. She and Makuro took Izuru to the classroom where the student council had gathered. Junko explained the rules of the game to the student council. Makuro provided weapons for them to use to kill each other. The last person standing would win. If no one participated, she was prepared to kill their relatives. When they still refused, Junko shot one of them. Prompted by the blackmail, one of them, carrying Kisaragi, started killing, and they began to kill each other in extremely violent ways while Makuro sang a song at Junko's behest.
This scene with the kids killing each other, the students killing each other, they're almost adults, like 17?
Yeah, it was in the anime. And
it is the most brutal scene of like almost the entire show.
Yeah, because like even the executions are sort of fantasy-like and stuff.
And this was very gruesome
murderers.
And realistic, though.
Yeah. And also the executions are like, those people are murderers, so you can at least feel like...
Well, we haven't gotten to those yet.
Yeah.
But when we do, yeah.
This was just...
barbaric.
And brutal. And it just shows how fragile the human mind is.
I mean, it shows that Junko's first attempt at a killing game was very rough and very barbaric and brutal and not cerebral at all.
Yeah.
And it makes you really lose faith in humanity, but at the same time, she really pinned them in a corner. They refused like 3 times. Mm-hmm. So, it was really hard to watch, and let's just move on.
All right.
Oh, it's my turn, right?
Yeah.
Oh, and Makuro's singing the whole time. You know what? Bleep you, Makuro. Junko may be the mastermind, but you're the enabler.
Yep.
Soshin won the game, and he tried to kill Izuru in revenge. Izuru deflected him easily, causing Soshin to fall on his own weapon, which was a chainsaw, by the way. Izuru failed to be bored, and he continued to humor Junko and accompany her.
Jin and the staff discovered what had happened the next morning and were outraged that the steering committee had decided to do their biggest cover-up yet and hide the deaths of the student council. The room was boarded up, and Kazuo resigned from his position as advisor. The steering committee falsely claimed the entire student council had suddenly traveled to the overseas branch that was still being constructed.
And the steering committee, part of the reason they're able to get away with this is because you refuse to investigate it or do anything or report it to the authorities. Oh, you monsters. Mm-hmm. Seriously, you could have prevented... Sorry. The steering committee asked Yasuke, the ultimate neurologist, to assist in their cover-up. In exchange for a large research grant and expensive equipment for his own personal lab on campus, he agreed to use his expertise to alter the memories of any seditious students or staff in Hope's Peak that knew too much, about their cover-ups and whatnot.
Mm-hmm. Junko, however, had recorded the entire massacre. She used Ryota's software to edit his masterpiece and make the mutual killing video. She began testing it on Mikon, who occasionally visited Ryota to check up on him. Junko managed to use it to brainwash Mikon into loving despair like herself, but Junko realized it had a very low chance of working on any given person.
Mikon, who had just been abused her entire life, I guess was more emotionally susceptible to this video.
Yep.
Junko leaked the mutual killing video along with documents on the Izuru Kamakura project and the steering committee's cover-ups to the press, specifically targeting the reserve course, and she blamed the student council's deaths on Izuru and Hope's Peak. The killing game became known as the Tragedy of Hope's Peak Academy.
And yeah.
So now the press knows. Now everything's going crazy.
Yeah, and they blame Izuru they say that Izuru killed them all. The students in the reserve course learned that the incident had been funded by their tuitions, and they began to riot. The steering committee forbid any ultimates from calling it riot, as they desperately attempted to spin it to the press as a parade.
That sounds familiar.
Yeah.
Calling a parade a riot. Or protest, really, I guess.
Yep.
The mutual killing video yielded a relatively small number of reserve corps students, and even a few security guards, who became brainwashed into loving despair like Mikon. These students revered Junko and fashioned masks that imitated the Monokuma plushie Junko often carried. They called themselves the Society, and hid in a basement beneath the club room in the reserve course building, where they re-watched the video on repeat.
That's weird.
Yeah, the most disturbing scene in the entire anime, they just rewatch.
Meanwhile, 3 students in different classes decided to cooperate on a major project called the Psychotherapeutic Communication Simulator. Maya contributed her skills as a therapist, Yasuke contributed his skills as a neurologist, Chihiro contributed her skills as a programmer. The goal was to create a virtual simulation that could allow the healing of damaged minds.
The steering committee's internal investigation began to suspect Junko as the true culprit. She was unflappable in interrogations, so they asked Yasuke to use his equipment to search her mind in an enhanced interrogation. Yasuke quit the psychotherapeutic project and refocused his efforts on mind wipe experiments.
Yasuke and Junko had been childhood friends, though, so Junko convinced him to wipe her mind so that she could go into hiding for a while. Yasuke was reluctant, but the idea of testing a mind wipe procedure was too tantalizing, so he helped her and attempted to wipe her mind. He replaced Junko's personality with a new one who went by the name of Ryoko Otonashi, the ultimate analytical prowess, her true talent.
Right, so Junko, as careful as she is, she's gone too far now, especially with leaking it to the press. She literally has to go into hiding. And she does it by wiping her own memory. Mm-hmm.
And also, this whole memory wiping thing is used quite a bit in the future.
Right, so I like that they at least have a precedent. Mm-hmm. Ryoko was an amnesiac with no past, but she did remember Yasuke. She was an innocent young woman, or she believed to be, right? Who retained little information due to her overwhelming talent. However, Junko's memories occasionally faded back into her mind. Yasuke became worried that his homicidal friend might return, so he gave Ryoko regular treatments to ensure that she remained peaceful and non-violent, though he despised Ryoko for not being a whole person, even though she loved him. He's kind of toxic.
Makuro disguised herself as Junko to take her place, and this shifted suspicion to the Makuro, who was now presumed guilty and missing. Yasuke, meanwhile, vouched for Ryoko and asked that she be enrolled in the Hope's Peak Academy. The steering committee were impressed by her analytical abilities and allowed her to enroll only as a test subject for Yasuke.
So this shows Junko's cleverness. If she just disappeared, everyone would be like, where's Junko at? Junko was guilty, right? Mm-hmm. So she has Makuro take her place, and now everyone's like, well, where's Makuro?
Yeah, and so it shifted it onto Makuro. And since Makuro is the ultimate soldier,
it makes sense.
Yeah.
Kyoko wanted to investigate the tragedy herself, but her father, Jin, forbid her from doing so because it was dangerous. Jin asked Yasuke to... Oh, actually, if you remember, Jin was not a detective, right? Mm-hmm. And Kyoko was a detective. So her enrolling is the first time Jin's seen her in a long time, right?
Yeah.
So they have a very rocky relationship. But he does have a picture of her on his desk.
Yeah.
So he did like her. Or love her, whatever. Anyway, Jin asked Yasuke to interrogate Soshin, who had been in a coma-like state ever since the tragedy, as the only survivor, right? Yasuke... Oh, I forgot to mention when he fell on the chainsaw, he didn't die.
Oh, I thought you did.
No, he went into a coma. Yasuke managed to talk to Soshin, who had brain damage, and went into screaming fits whenever he heard Junko's name. Yasuke realized Soshin might blow Ryoko's cover, and so Yasuke killed Soshin. He reported it had been a suicide.
Which was easy for him to fake because he was so mentally ill.
And that's mental illness being treated in the modern day, right?
Yep. Ryoko began using her journal to assist her forgetful memories. She wandered around campus and came upon Makuro pretending to be Junko. Ishiki, as the former bodyguard of the student council, got into a brutal fight with Makuro as he suspected Junko's involvement. She also met Yuto, the ultimate secret agent. When Ryoko returned to Yasuke, he restrained her to prevent her from wandering again.
Yuto followed Ryoko and untied her when Yasuke was away from his lab. Yuto explained that he was investigating the tragedy on his own as well, and she had intrigued him. Yuto said he would investigate Junko, but in exchange for freeing Ryoko, he demanded having intercourse with her in return, at a later time.
Really?
He's a scumbag.
The society, with the help of Makuro, systemically hunted down the steering committee members. Ryoko found herself in their basement without remembering how she had arrived, but the society treated her well. Ryoko saw the last two members of the steering committee tortured and nearly dead. She got out of there, but her memories of that place did not leave her.
So we're almost at the part of anarchy where they've systematically killed off the steering committee.
Mm-hmm.
Kyoko witnessed the murder of one of the steering committee's members, and so she began investigating their deaths despite her father's previous warning. Through her investigation, she suspected that Yasuke murdered Soshin and that Ryoko was involved.
Ishiki attacked Kyoko and Ryoko, desperately wanting vengeance for the student council's deaths. The Madurai brothers revealed their multiple identities and attacked all at once, for they suspected Ryoko was the mastermind. Kyoko fended for herself, but Makuro saved Ryoko and killed the Madurai brothers after Kyoko left.
Right, so Makuro's like watching over her because she knows it's Junko, right?
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, there goes the identical siblings. They're all dead now.
Mm-hmm.
Because Makuro's a murderer.
Yep.
Ryoko and Yuto teamed up to try to find Izuru and learn more about the events of the tragedy. They went into the facilities easily thanks to the help of the society, but Izuru had broken out of his cell long ago. Yasuke ambushed them, snapped Yuto's neck, and killed him. Ryoko was immensely frightened, and Yasuke explained that Junko had pushed him too far. Junko had not only brought about so many deaths, but she got people to kill for her. Yasuke said he couldn't take the guilt of the people he killed anymore, and he wasn't sure if he could keep covering for Junko. He admitted Junko probably didn't return his feelings for her anymore anyway. And that's true, because Junko liked Izuru now instead of Yasuke.
Yep. Ryoko realized that she and Junko were the same person, and her memories began coming back. She realized that Yasuke would never love her, and as Junko, she would never love him. To stop Junko, Ryoko asked Yasuke to kill her. Yasuke began to strangle her, but Junko's memories came flooding back. Junko fought off Yasuke and killed him with her own bare hands. After realizing what she had done, Junko cried in despair before eventually returning to her life's mission.
With Junko back, Makuro stopped disguising herself as Junko. She was glad to have her sister back, but Junko began acting even crueler to Makuro than before. Whereas Junko used to occasionally attack Makuro in deadly methods for which Makuro was happy to easily evade, Junko began to instead occasionally assault Makuro in sexually stimulating ways. Makuro enjoyed her sadistic sister doing that to her, but the relationship became more strained. Because remember, Makuro liked her sister trying to kill her because it made her think, oh, you would experience despair at losing me. Mm-hmm. But abusing her in that way doesn't accomplish that. Yeah. And it makes Makuro question her sister.
Mm-hmm. Junko also arranged for Nagisa, Masaru, Kotoko, and Jotaro to return to Towa City and join Monica, who by this time was working on a project to produce robots that would be capable of emergency aid and domestic help, utilizing artificial intelligence developed by Chihiro. The Towa group approved of her project and devoted much funding her way. Junko convinced Monica to alter the designs of the robots to reflect her Monokuma character.
So the Monokumas are becoming real.
Mm-hmm.
Not long after, Ryota discovered Junko's mutual killing video, and Junko told him that she needed him to fully integrate the mutual killing video with his masterpiece. If he refused, she threatened that Makuro would begin another killing game with Class 77B. So Ryota complied, and thus became complicit.
Yep.
We're going to end it off here because that brings us to 0 years before despair.
Yep.
Sadly, we didn't get to the actual despair event.
No, we didn't.
Right up to it. Next time we'll do it. This has been Game Theorem. I'm Kyle.
I'm Kira.
Bye.
Bye.